meeting, the Standard Forms Committee meeting that we go to. Christina was chairman of Standard Forms last year, as you may know. So we want to be on that meeting at 10 o'clock. So I'm going to end this by 10 o'clock, believe it or not. And our topic for the day is exactly that. It's something that is coming from PAR and PAR Standard Forms regarding COVID-19. So PAR is looking to the coming months, weeks, days, I doubt years. You'll understand what I mean when I tell you what it is. They're revising the HSA form and the PAN form, the Property Access Notice. In fact, their idea of revision for the HSA form is to do away with it. That's the form on which you actually get a buyer, a seller, tenant, or a landlord to answer the health screening questions and to sign it. So that form's going to go away. What we're going to have is a modified property access notice form that's being worked on as we speak, and is probably going to get approved for publication in the next hour and a half when Christina and I joined that meeting. So it's going to be called the PAN form. Maybe it's going to be called the PAN HSA form. We don't even know for sure what the name is. Christina is about to bring it up on the screen and to share you, and she'll explain the concept, and I'll explain it as well. So you already heard from us 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago about the new world with COVID-19 and all the vaccinations. So you know that we're changing our own company policy just to make sure that we go over those HSA questions, or we alert our clients, our buyers and our sellers, tenants and landlords, to make sure that they alert us when they have a yes answer to any of those HSA questions. And of course, no matter what we do, it's still up. Oh, I love that sound. It's a baby sound. It's wonderful. The right way to start a Monday. But anyway, remember that a seller can always make stricter requirements, and we are to ask every seller if he wants. Christina and I took a listing on Saturday, and as we were getting it signed, we went over this and we said, do you have any stricter requirements? Do you want people to wear masks, wear booties, clean surfaces, have only 3 people in the house at a time? We asked that question. As no surprise, they say, even though they're 85 years old, they're fully vaccinated, they said, no problem. We don't have any stricter requirements. So anyway, we remember we're going to do that. So Christina, I'll turn it over to you for the moment.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So here is coming up to you on the screen, the currently just a draft of the new form. We were only aware of this as of last week, but this is part of PAR's efforts to constantly continue adapting and updating the the forms and the best practices for COVID-19. So don't assume those are static. I think I said this last week and I posted about it. When you have questions on what the state guidance or the state resources are, they continue to change constantly as the situation changes. So you can always look back to PAR for updated practices. So this form, it probably, but we are not sure, will be approved with the name COVID PAN. So this is a new COVID PAN form, the Property Access Notice. The proposal at the same time is to do away with, to completely eliminate the COVID HSA. That is the form with the health screening questions for signature on paper. This form has always had a section in it with the, that described best practices and health screening or health and safety questions. It's now been reformulated a little bit, and there's less emphasis on that health screening because as the situation changes and progresses, that has become less significant. Still necessary that we are self-screening most of the time, but much less common to be done in writing or done necessarily on a showing by showing basis. So the top of the form stays pretty much the same. The health and safety precautions, this section used to be best practices and health and safety in 2 sections. Now it's combined into 1, but a lot of the same words are there. That's why all the text that you see in blue is already text you are familiar with on the current PAN form. Some of the language, some of the phrases in these, best practices or health and safety precautions has been tweaked a little. You see at, line 13 in red, it makes it clear that that the owner of a property or seller of a property may require other safety measures, and that you have to comply with whatever the owner or seller or occupant is requiring. If I could just extend a reminder, we're getting some background noise, so please mute if you don't need to be heard. So, one of the things you may notice here is it doesn't say, and it hasn't said for a while, that there's a 3-person limit. It does say that someone may, the restrictions or, requirements in the property may include a limit on the number of visitors to the property at any time, including licensees, but it does not need to, and it does not always. Okay. And then, if you look at the entirely red paragraph at 2C, and at 2B, again, you see that the property owner may provide additional instructions to visitors, including real estate service providers. Again, that was already there, but moved around. And now you have paragraph C, which all in one short paragraph contains those health screening questions, what used to be questions. And now they are simply statements that any person who would have to, who meets any of these descriptions, any person who is diagnosed or in contact with someone who's diagnosed, should notify the licensee and should refrain from conducting in-person real estate activities until they can safely be resumed. So now it's simply contained here in this section of precautions. You don't answer every specific question, but you are on notice. Everybody is on notice all the time, as we have been for the past year and a bit, that if you if these apply, notify us. So the assumption of risk has not changed.
Christina, so I'm going to jump in to say, keep that paragraph, that red paragraph on the screen. I want to point out that, as I keep saying, we're putting the responsibility for notifying us without asking those questions every day of every buyer, of every seller, of every tenant. We're putting the buyers, the tenants, the sellers on notice. Remember, this is a one and done form. You give it to them, and they need to know on an ongoing basis that if something changes, they have to tell us. It's kind of like the seller's disclosure form, where if something in the condition of the property changes, they have to notify you. They just can't have a problem with the house and think that the old seller disclosure form is going to work. So the responsibility is on the consumers to let us know after we've given them this form and they've signed it. We also give it to home inspectors. You're going to see when we get to the signature lines that we've added that to this form. And Florence just posted a question that says we have to be careful what questions we ask regarding HIPAA. Well, Florence, here's what we're being told. First of all, there's no vaccination question on the form. And HIPAA is only for medical professionals. It's not for real estate professionals. You can ask your clients anything you want. They don't have to answer you when it comes to personal medical questions.
But let me jump back in here. Look at the form. We're not asking anybody questions. That is part of the point of this. Okay, so the HSA, which was allowed and didn't violate HIPAA, the HSA never violated HIPAA. That was a sort of a false concern. But this form, we are not specifically asking any questions. So there's even less concern about that here. And that doesn't mean that people don't need to tell us. They still have to tell us. So the responsibility is on the consumer who has been given this form, who has been notified, who's out there, living in the world with COVID that we're all living in. If you are diagnosed, if you have a fever, if you're in contact with someone who's diagnosed, you have to tell us. But we are not asking anybody specific questions and asking them to answer in writing. So that requirement is fading away, and that the form that we used to do that, the HSA form, is most likely going to be eliminated. These votes have to happen in about an hour and a half from now, but they will be, these are the decisions we expect.
And Christina, if the vote goes the way we think it will go, I think this form will be available starting July 1.
Exactly.
Same
Maybe
with the
actually this
disclosure.
it is possible this one might even come out sooner, but I wouldn't.
Right.
July 1 would be the expected date. Yeah. Which, you know, if you notice, there's a theme. I mean, the PAR is adapting just as Dominic says we have adapted. You know, we would keep using this form the way we are currently required to in our compliance with the current COVID PAN form, that, you know, we have to use it with the consumer notice for every client. So we have to make sure people see this and sign it at the first, you know, at our first encounter, first substantial meeting with them. And it's one and done, and it's put in the file. And this form would continue to be used that way. And you know, as we have not been requiring the HSA specifically for a long time, unless the seller or anybody else actually specifically asked for it, we are now, you know, PAR is coming to that same or similar procedure by eliminating the HSA. So, all right. So hopefully it's pretty straightforward. It's I think, you know, I think it's great and positive to see the you know, to see the you know, the guidance from PAR and the forms from PAR adapting to the situation, you know, that continues to improve and to be, you know, less of a concern and less of a priority in our business. It's optimistic that we can, you know, we don't get stuck and trapped in these, you know, very stringent precautions that started last year. We will continue to adapt and work our way out of them. Right.
Christina, go to the bottom of the form, please.
Mm-hmm. Though the signature lines have not changed, although they may change a tiny bit today, but these signature lines are the same that you have on the PAN form now, and they remain pretty much the same, entirely the same.
And remember, you would have a home inspector sign this form as well. You would have, you know, an appraiser sign the form as well, et cetera, et cetera. Anyone who's given access, that's why it's called the PAN form, property access notice. Anyone who's being given access to the property would sign this form once and done. And if there's a tenant in the property, they would sign as the occupant, one and done. You get the idea. As Christina said, it's been that way for a while.
That's that.
Are there any questions?
It's fast and easy. All right, well, I will stop sharing this then. And
since this is Broker with Your Breakfast, and I'm going to go off at a little before 10 o'clock, and Christina can go off right now if she wants. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to open it up to any challenging questions from the floor, whether they're about appraisers, deposit monies. I just want to say that I'm lately in all my counseling with so many agents on so many multiple offers and transactions, a key thing to do is to, you know, get large deposits. This idea of taking a $500,000 property off the market for, you know, a $5,000 or $10,000 deposit, I think is a little passé. I find, isn't it amazing? I find that the more money we have on deposit, the more earnest the buyer is, the more sincere, the more committed the buyer is. So I think more is more when it comes to deposit monies. More is better.
I think you have a question from, well, you have a question, I think, from Holly, although Holly, your name says Hunter today, but I know that's still you. Yeah.
I guess my son got in here and did something.
Good.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm having, I have a listing and I got an offer yesterday and I spoke with my client and she wanted to accept the offer. And so I told the buyer's agent that she was going to accept the offer and we would get it signed and sent to her. She's older and, you know, without access to computers, and I did everything by hand with her, and she was in Delaware with her sister. So she said, I'm going to get it done with my sister. And anyway, through the course of the day, I didn't get it back signed. And so I figured, okay, it was already kind of late in the day. And I didn't want to wake her up, you know, so I figured I'd catch up with her in the morning. And this morning, the buyer's agent texted me. I thought I didn't see the signed papers. I thought we had a deal. And in the meantime, in the meantime, a couple other showings came in. And so I texted her back and I said, well, we did have an agreement. I said, but I haven't gotten a paper signed back either. And in the meantime, there's been a couple showings scheduled and I have to inform my client and see what she wants to do.
Okay, Holly and everyone, this is some of the most important things I can say. Up in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton office of KP&G, we have the lawsuit from hell. We have a lawsuit from hell right now where we have two buyers claiming they have contracts to buy the same house. And the problem comes when we agents communicate on behalf of our sellers that we have a deal when we don't have a signed agreement of sale. So we must choose our words carefully. We must, especially if we're putting those words into a text or an email, we must not say the seller is accepting your offer, Holly. We must say this pending final review by the seller, everything looks good. That way, if another offer comes in, the seller is free to accept it. We have statute of frauds. It's not an agreement of sale unless it's signed, but we do have, I think it's paragraph 30 or 31 of the agreement of sale, which says that, yeah, when you communicate with a seller's agent, they communicate for their seller. And you deliver something to the seller's agent, that's delivery to the seller. And you deliver something to the buyer's agent, that counts as delivery to the buyer. Well, sending an email or a text in writing that says we have a deal, you probably have a deal. And then you go ahead and accept a different offer in writing. You've now sold the same house twice. Don't be there. And the other thing is you talk it over with your seller. Do you want to stop showings? Do you want to stay with your word? You know, we wouldn't have this lawsuit up in upstate Pennsylvania if the seller wasn't greedy and wanted to get an extra $60,000, which is what he did when he took the second offer instead of the first offer, which the agent had already said he accepted but never signed. So be very, very careful. Holly, I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry if I'm so strident. It's because I'm so concerned about us running on the fly and sending a text to another agent saying, you've got a deal. First of all, against the entire world, I object to the term deal. I think we're selling cars when we do deals, or we're doing, you know, something else. We do transactions. Let's elevate our industry. I don't think your doctor's going to say to you, well, okay, we're going to do surgery next week. Is that a deal? No way. We don't use the word deal. I don't like it, but the whole world is using it. So I give up. Keep using the word deal if you want to. I'm just arguing with myself right now. Any question more? Holly, you also asked a question. What if we're not meeting the appraiser? Well, if we're the listing agent, the appraiser has to go through us to get access to the house in communication, and we have him sign the PAN form, or her sign the PAN form. Any other question, or am I too hard on that topic?
Dominic, is it acceptable when you're dealing with, when I'm a listing agent and somebody makes an offer that the seller has said they intend to accept, is it acceptable to say we have a meeting of the minds, or is that the same thing as saying the seller accepts your offer?
Because the definition of meeting of the minds is not good. After all, you wouldn't be asking the question if it was clearly the same thing. I would stay away from meeting of the minds as well. I would always say that it looks good to the seller pending final review and signature. Put it in writing, pending final review and signature. I love those terms.
So it looks good to the seller pending final review and signature. Okay, good.
Yep.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Then if they say to you, are you going to stop showings? You say, I'll discuss that with the seller. If they say to you, are you going to entertain any other offers? You know, one of the problems is we have agents who bring you offers after the seller has said it's a deal, but before the seller signs it. And the buyer's agent says, well, wait a minute, do you have a signed agreement? And you have to tell the truth. And you say, well, no. And they say, well, you got to present my offer to the seller then. So we make the problem ourselves by the words we choose and the words we put in writing. Pending final review and signatures.
So if I use those words pending final review and signature, and before the seller signs the offer, another offer comes in that the seller says, oh, this is better, $60,000 better maybe.
Right.
At that point, because I use those terms pending final review and signature, the seller would be free to accept the second or third or fourth or fifth offer.
That's correct. You never got the seller's signature, and therefore he sold it to someone else.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
And that's why, as a buyer's agent, that's why that buyer's agent is calling Holly right now and saying, where's my signature? That agent must know that getting a signed copy is really important, right, Holly? Yep. But we think we know the law, and we don't always know the law. So you got to be very careful.
Now, Dominic, one other question. I was taught some years ago that if I'm a listing agent and the seller signs the papers accepting a buyer's offer, and I communicate that to the buyer's agent before I've actually sent them the papers, that constitutes a binding agreement. Did I understand that correctly? And if so, is that still the case?
Yes, you did. And the term you didn't use was delivery. That constitutes delivery. So if you have a signed agreement of sale and it's on paper and you hand it to the buyer's agent, that's delivery. Remember, delivery to a buyer is delivery to a buyer's agent, and delivery to a seller is delivery to a seller, to a seller's agent is delivery to a seller. It says that in the communications with buyer and seller paragraph. I think it's 30 or 31 of the agreement of sale. I'm not looking at it right now. But anyway, the key piece is delivery. And you can have verbal delivery. You can have a text delivery. If you say the seller just signed and accepted your agreement in a text, in a voicemail message, if you say it verbally, that is delivery. Okay, because you do need delivery to have an executed agreement of sale.
That's what I thought. Just wanted to be sure that I remembered it correctly.
But you can't deliver a non-signed agreement of sale, and that's where we get our trouble. When we say the seller has accepted your agreement before he has signed it, that's when we, should just take out the gun and do mortal wounds to ourselves. We're just creating bad lawsuits. Okay, well, we got a couple of questions. I got to go in about 5 minutes. So Nikki's been asking a couple of questions.
And I tried to answer them because I think they were pretty straightforward. So hopefully I did that. And I have to jump off in a minute as well.
Christina. Why don't we let Christina go and I'll hang around for another 5 minutes.
All right. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Christina, as always. So anything else that's burning in your real estate practice? If not, start the week out great. Start the month out, June out great. We're going to have the best June. I always said traditionally that the second busiest settlement date of the month was the last business day of May, and that the busiest settlement date of the month was always the last business day of June. So a lot of the settlements we have coming up, we worked all spring on. We sold them in March and April, and now they're coming to fruition. And hopefully you're going to have money available to you that when someone in our office, such as myself, Maureen Inglesby, Christina, Mark Barone, someone comes to you and asks you for an investment in RPAC, the Real Estate Political Action Committee, you'll be willing to at least give the $15, but maybe you'll do $99 or $100, or like some of us, you might do $1,000 or $3,000, like Christina and I each do, because we're so committed to helping you all and our fellow realtors have good public policy regarding real estate here in Pennsylvania and across the country, and even in our local municipalities. That's what RPAC is about. So we're going to have an RPAC telethon in a little more than a week. I think it's a week from this coming Thursday on the 17th. We're having the Realtors Political Action Committee telethon, where we try to call up all the members in the state of Pennsylvania. Yeah, in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, in our Association of Realtors, which is now called Tri-County Suburban Realtors, and we ask for your investment in RPAC. We'll be talking more about that. Maybe we'll talk about that in our next broker meeting. We can do an enormous amount just talking about RPAC. Any questions? And by the way, I want to thank everyone who's here and everyone in our offices who do invest in RPAC. We've got some people who understand RPAC and are very committed to it. And I want to thank everyone I see some of your names here. I'm not going to start naming people because I'll be leaving people out. But your leadership at KPG, Keller Williams, thanks to Anne-Marie and other people, are very committed to RPAC. Okay, if you don't have any further questions, I need to get going to get onto the.
Dominic?
Yes. Tracy?
Dominic,
Yes,
I
Tracy.
do have one quick question. It's really just a matter of your opinion. You see a lot of these things now, almost every listing has a time frame set on it where, offers must be in by such and such a day, some of which are not honoring that. They put it out there and then, you get ready to submit your offer and they've already signed something, which I know they're able to do that. But my question is, how do you personally feel about if I'm listing a house in setting that type of timeline? Like, I'm more comfortable with just seeing how it goes.
You
Because
said
I feel like
you say the same thing
we're
you said.
exacerbating this rush.
Yeah, Tracy, since it's always up to the seller, and since
can't hear
anyone
you.
can make an offer, even on a coming soon property, for instance, Christina, we sold a house to my son after he lost out on 2 or 3 houses a few months ago, and the memo in the MLS said all offers are due on Monday, and all of a sudden, it changed. All offers are due on Sunday because someone made an offer to the seller, was demanding an offer on Sunday. It's always up to the seller. It's nice to say to a seller, you ought to, stick to the parameters we laid out, but we can't stop you from accepting an earlier offer. So, Tracy, the answer is, I think as professionals, we need to, number one, recognize what you and I just said. But number two, we need to put the words, just like we don't say you got a deal, we say pending final signatures and review. You have, it looks good. We want to say pending no unforeseen circumstances, all offers will be reviewed by the seller 5 p.m. on Monday. So that way, when, a great offer comes in at, 8 o'clock on Sunday night and he takes it, we don't have egg over our face. But agents think there's something unethical. And a lot of agents think that, you can't do that. And that is incorrect. The seller can sell the house to anybody he wants, whenever he wants, as long as he doesn't violate the law and violate fair housing.
Dominic, the only thing I just want to clarify, I just like to clarify what I'm asking, because I thoroughly understand what you just said. My question is, how do you feel about setting those parameters in a listing?
I would gladly set the parameters, but I would do them with language that's not as definite as the language that you see. I would do did you hear me? I said it. Ready? Pending unforeseen circumstances, the seller will be reviewing all offers 5 p.m. on Monday. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have to go. Thank you all. God bless you all. And
Dominic, 10
yes.
seconds. I just want to remind everybody, you are live in the office next Monday night at 6:30.
That's
Reynolds.
correct, for rentals. Okay, what you really did is remind me, Terry. Thank you. You're wonderful. Okay, I really have to be on this meeting. Thank you all. God bless. In 2 weeks, I'll be on vacation, but we'll still have broken with the breakfast, I think. Okay, take care.